going to discuss future of jobs in that panel, and that's very close to my heart because I have actually done a couple of investments in that space. And I think that we have an excellent panel to discuss that exact topic. I'll try to lead it from a macro perspective, what it means to society, to actually what it means to individual. But just to start off with, how about we just make a very brief round of introduction, just 1-2 sentences of who you are and what you do. Thank you.
So my name's Nina Fitchl. I'm at Allianz X, which is the strategic digital investment unit of the Allianz Group, responsible for the strategic and corporate development aspect, and also we're also seen as the front runner when it comes to digitalization and also acquiring new talent for Allianz.
Hey, I'm Rasmus. My background is in deep learning research. I co-founded Merantix, which is a Berlin-based deep learning company working on the productization of AI in 3 different industries: in the medical space, on automating radiological workflow, in the automotive space, on testing solutions for autonomous driving, and in the financial space on trading. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jonathan Lechard. I spent the first half of my career with The Economist magazine as a foreign correspondent and a war correspondent, but then segued into technology, and I'm now a visiting professor in AI in Prague, and my interest is artificial intelligence in the tropics, especially in Africa.
Awesome. So actually, Jonathan, I would like to start with you and look at the macro perspective of what AI means for jobs from a societal perspective. I remember when we talked, you said that you think that there's a GDP threshold for countries. Below a certain threshold, countries will be net losers when it comes to AI development, and above certain threshold, countries will be net benefactors of AI development. So I'm very interested in that perspective. Could you elaborate on that GDP threshold and AI development? Because that's very interesting.
Well, I mean, the first qualifier is that all of us are speculating on how the technology is going to develop. But, you know, I work primarily in Africa, and there we have 70 to 80% youth unemployment. 50% of the population is under 19 years old. They simply will have to develop in a different way. And it's really interesting. Obviously, in enterprise business, people know there's a first mover advantage. But when we think about advanced technology in poorer communities, there seems to be a last mover advantage. So there is a potential, notwithstanding all of the economic and educational challenges of putting the systems in place, but there is a possibility in African agriculture, African healthcare, to put in solutions which are radically better than the existing solutions. For example, cancer care in Africa is almost non-existent. Cardiology is very, very weak. Diabetes is taking over in Africa as the most debilitating disease. Diagnosis using very relatively simple AI technologies, which could be a net win. And in terms of jobs, you know, Africa has got to have a green revolution. That it means it has to triple, quadruple its agricultural production. So if we draw out the whole suite of artificial intelligence, including, you know, observation of agriculture, intelligent use of water, intelligent use of logistics, then I think we see a net gain in jobs there, just as we will see in economies like Italy or France, Britain, AI gutting out a lot of the workforce.
Very interesting. The idea of net benefactor for an industry, because you kind of skip the legacy systems, that's definitely, I guess, the case for banking, financial institutions. In a country that I come from, Poland, we have one of the most modern financial banking systems, because we skipped a lot of the legacy systems that exist in Western Europe. From your perspective, Rasmus, Nina, what industries do you think can really be the highest net benefactors when it comes to AI development and job creation, and which industries will specifically be disadvantaged by that development?
Well, I think it benefits a lot of industries. So you could start with healthcare. You already mentioned that. I mean, in Europe, you're always in this discussion about like privacy and like false negatives and that. In less developed countries, there is not such a level of well-trained medical doctors. So if you give a solution which automatically gives a diagnosis, you have a completely different discussion and like have a very clear benefit there for the general population. I think also logistics as a general space will be a benefactor, because I mean you have with autonomous mobility you will have huge changes there and will make things much more efficient. And manufacturing, same thing. So I think it will affect every single industry and will further develop that industry as any kind of general purpose technology in the last decades, centuries. And that will have an impact on the job market. It will mean that certain jobs which exist now will cease to exist, as it happened before with other technological inventions. So I think the key is you can't prevent that. You will have some kind of structural unemployment. The thing is, like, it will not happen from one day to the next. It will take time. It will take a few years to get the adoption. I think that's something when you see research in the demos, it always looks like things already work and they're gonna run in production tomorrow. There's certainly, especially for real world application, it takes quite some time to get them really into the workflows. And so that means also that governments and need to kind of work on this to re-educate people, and obviously also for newly educated people to make sure they go into the right directions.
Great. And for insurance industry, obviously a lot of people are going to go out of workforce with automation. You could argue for that because you're going to be automating things like claim management, but then there's going to be new opportunities coming in. How do you look at that space, Nina, at Allianz?
Yeah, I think what the technology enables us to serve customers in a different way. So Africa has been mentioned. One of our first investment was Bima, actually, which is a microinsurance company. So through that investment, we can access a totally new customer group, though in a very different way. The next example, also like the second investment we've done, American Well, which is a telehealth platform, also will enable us to also become a seamless part when it also comes to providing healthcare to people who didn't have healthcare before. Another example, also Gojek in Indonesia, where we invested, where we're now offering health insurance to the drivers and their families who didn't have insurance before. So I think there's new ways and really new jobs that will be created. And we're also aware that AI and capabilities in that space is not something that we will be able to develop internally. So I think the winner will be the one who really wisely partners with the right partners, and also then implements technology in a wise way with existing offers, but also is courageous enough to try out new paths, whereas I think those that are ignoring those developments will be on the loser side.
Got it. Is it correct to say that the value is going to be created in the insurance industry, so more value of AI, but the jobs are going to be kind of spilled over into like Gojek, into other industries that insurance
not necessarily. So I think insurance, if it goes down to what is it about, it's about to protect people, and I think protection is what will be needed in all cases. When it comes to claims, I mean, what we've seen is with artificial intelligence, you can automate a lot of the standard claims, and that, of course, then you can lead more of that offshore workforce Martin was talking about. But in those countries, new offers are created. So it's not like these jobs will go away. And on the other hand, then the claims handlers can focus on the more complex claims and also spend more time with the customer, which is then beneficial for the customer, and the claim can be paid out much quicker. So that's also then to the benefit of the customer. So yeah, there's a lot of change, and I think, and it has been mentioned several times, and I also thought about it, in Germany, I think we really have a challenge when it comes to education, to really also speed up in that area and become more active, because this is talent that is needed in the future here very badly. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Education was covered before as well, so definitely an important topic. Rasmus and Jonathan, I would like to dig deeper into this aspect that Nina covered, partnering with the right people, because I think that's very core of what Merantix is doing. Partnering with you, Mittelstand companies partnering with you to basically go into AI space. And then I discussed with Jonathan how Mittelstand is actually a huge net benefactor of AI development, of its narrow specialization. I know, Rasmus, you have a slightly different perspective on that. So maybe just to start with Jonathan, why do you think highly specialized German Mittelstand companies could be strong net benefactors in terms of job creation?
That's a real stretch. I mean, when I worked for The Economist, I was the Central and East Europe bureau chief. So I did have some perspective at that time on the German Mittelstand, also Swiss, we can talk about Austria, Czech Republic, I think, has some similarities, Northern Italy also. I think those companies which are maybe 50 to 500 employees, well, you were saying that you have to outsource AI even as a large corporation, but obviously the Mittelstand companies, they're just going to be buying in bespoke solutions. It's entirely plausible, I think, that those companies can add a little bit of more efficiency to their work in that space. But I mean, there is some interesting economists like Danny Roderick at Princeton who've kind of looked into this, and it does seem to be that the more bespoke your offering as a company and the smaller scale companies, the more likely it is you're able to integrate this technology more successfully.
Is that correct, Rasmus, in your
Yeah, maybe,
perspective?
I mean, maybe slightly different perspectives there. I think, you can buy in solutions, and I think there are already a lot of solutions out there using AI. There will be more, so I think that often makes sense. I think especially for smaller company, there's always kind of the case, like, do you really want to develop it in-house, or do you want to buy it from somewhere? And there, I guess I'm a bit less. I'm a bit more skeptical towards developing it yourself when you're like a 30-40 people company, and you're in manufacturing and you want to improve quality assurance, some manufacturing line. Like the thing is, like, it's really easy to download TensorFlow. Like, everybody here in the room can do that and run a neural network in like half an hour, and it's gonna be shiny and it looks really nice. But like making this run robust for like a real world problem is like 10x, 50x harder. And so I think for like smaller companies, it's very much they need to make a very kind of business-driven decision, like, is it worth investing this, and is it just like some kind of small side process I make slightly more efficient, then rather buying a solution. If it's obviously core to the core product they're selling, then and gives them a competitive advantage there across for others, then I think it could be worth doing it in-house. I think we've been approached by a lot of companies who are like, hey, I read in The Economist or somewhere, like, hey, AI is the new thing, and then you talk to the people and then you're like, okay, what do you actually want to do? And then you have a few discussions, and it takes some time until you actually get to the core of the problem they're trying to solve. And then the first thing which I think makes sense to do the business case, like, does it actually improve? And then I've seen many of those cases where it's like, yeah, you can save like 20, 30, 40,000 euros a year, but like there's no way it makes sense to develop something for solving this problem. So yeah, I think you need to differentiate quite a lot there.
Got it. And then I would still like to touch on the individual right now. So we as individual are going to work differently in 10 years from now. More and more people are going to be freelancers. Some people are going to fall out of jobs, especially in countries, maybe not in 10 years, but in 20, there's going to be some people that are not going to be able to get a job. That's why we're talking about universal basic income. I'm wondering generally about your perspective on the individual. Do you think that there should be an institution, there should be something like basic universal income? And then the second question that I would like to cover, and I'm really interested in Nina's perspective, are there going to be new products from insurance to people, to new workforce, to new unemployed? Are you thinking about things like that today?
I think this is a really sad question. I think this is like we should very much focus now on education, and for any technological innovation, make sure that society gets re-educated. And I feel like universal income or ensuring them is kind of is only if we don't succeed in the next 10 years to re-educate the society and then kind of give up and say, okay, we finally accept that there will be a lot of people unemployed. So I think right now we shouldn't think about that question. We should first focus on the education and re-education to
So you're
to not
positive
make
that
that
there's
happen.
going to be
Yeah, I think
continued
it's
employment
possible.
on the level that we
but
have today?
we need to do it now.
Okay.
I'm generally a sort of cheerful chap, but I have to. I mean, there was a venture capitalist this morning who said that we shouldn't be learning Latin in school, if I understood.
We shouldn't be, he said.
Which is the most moronic thing I've heard all day. I mean, I was a director at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, so we had some of the best computer scientists. Those guys who are taking a PhD, they should have to compulsory do political studies, some law, some philosophy, some economics, because their head is in the cloud. I mean, the EPFL and ETH, they don't even have an ethics professor in the computer science faculty. I mean, this is just absurd. And if we talk in political terms, we really, if you're going to talk about a single mother with 3 children on a 0 hours contract in 10 years' time, with migration questions, with the persistent push of Chinese efficiency through computing, you have a massive political problem, an extraordinary problem. But so we have to rethink the entire workplace, and this idea that we can code our way out of it is completely nonsensical to me. But I do think there are ways forward, but we certainly haven't got them on the table now.
So do you agree that we're going to be able to still employ everybody, as we are doing today, or nearly everybody, if we change the education system, educate people more broadly, as Rasmus pointed out, or do you think that we're going to have a tremendous problems with employment?
It's a political question of what is the role of a citizen, what is the value of a citizen in a community, and you generally will see countries like the Netherlands or Finland where the citizen has more voice in the local level. Those economies are going to be more robust and able to absorb the inevitable loss of jobs that artificial intelligence is going to bring. So it's not catastrophic, but it is catastrophic unless we get more interesting ideas on the table. But universal basic income, it doesn't seem to be a flyer, either politically or economically. The Finnish test model was a failure. So that's probably not going to be the solution.
Very good. And I'm interested in how Allianz is thinking about the future of workforce in terms of products, ideas, how to basically cater to the new type of worker.
I mean, we're also right at the beginning, and I think, as it was said, it's a political issue. And of course, as a large corporate, we also have responsibility, I would say, and in that sense, so wherever I think we can contribute, I think, this is something we're concerned about. And there's also a lot of focus in that space at the moment at Allianz. When it comes to the future of jobs and the freelancers, yes, I think that also fits with our partnership approach with the startups, because this also helps us to better understand the needs. We're currently running projects where we also see how we can strengthen corporate health, corporate pension, especially with SMEs, but also providing them a digital solution which is easy to implement, but also then offering accounts to the employees that when they switch job, they can take that pension with them and still know also where they are insured and where they might have gaps. So in that direction, we're currently also running project in that space.
Great. So we have around 5 minutes left. I would like to check, is there any question in the audience from the audience about future of work, future of workforce? There's one question over there.
Hi. Whenever this question is discussed about, is AI going to take away the jobs, I always come to my mind the basic problems that our Western society faces, and this is the distribution of wealth, which we are not doing as good a job. And I don't think AI has created this problem. I don't think AI is going to, fix it or make it worse. This discussion should go, to the much broader range of a problem of how our societies work, where the capitalism is going and all that, right? So, yeah, that's my opinion. If you have comments, please say something.
I guess the question is also right, whether AI is going to potentially widen the gap. Is that right? Oh, it's not going to affect, okay. What do you guys think?
Well, I was recently in Shenzhen, and I met with the Shenzhen Politburo, and the guy who runs Shenzhen now, gentleman, sorry, who runs Shenzhen was formerly head of the Chinese Space Agency, and they want to pump in, I think, $40 billion into artificial intelligence investment, mainly in life sciences, in and around Shenzhen. So the scale of what is about to come down the pipe. Now, I'm getting on AI's case because I think there's all the upside, which we could talk about as well. So it's not a net loss, but clearly, when I was a kid, we had travel agents on the high street. Now in Britain, we barely have high streets. I mean, most of the shops are gone, and artificial intelligence is just part of that larger discussion. But if you're looking at macroscopically, the Chinese are going to push very, very hard in this space, and I think Silicon Valley companies are very aggressive as well. So it's up to civic society to decide what it wants. And as you say, the inequity is fundamentally a political issue in the end.
I mean, that's the thing. I think we kind of, we talk about AI here obviously today, but like it's also other, technologies which in the end have the same kind of, the same impact on society. Basically, that there are a few very important technologies which were, especially in China, but also in the US, is put much more money into. I think there's right now we just talk about the primary effects of AI being used in a certain job in order to, and then maybe potentially people being replaced. I think the secondary effect is actually much worse. So imagining entire industries where we don't catch up on using AI in those industries, become not competitive anymore, or just get so disrupted because in other places like Shenzhen, there's 40 billion invested in, autonomous driving is a great example, right? There's so much money being invested in China right now in that area. Now imagine in 10 years Wolfsburg or Ingolstadt as two examples if we don't start to move faster there. So I think, and that's just one example. You can go in every industry, and it's probably, in some it's worse, in some it's less bad, but I think that scares me even much more than AI directly replacing jobs.
What other industries other than automotive? Obviously that's the biggest concern for the German market. Yeah, I mean, it's probably also in manufacturing in general. I don't know if you have any other examples. Financial industry, potentially. Any other questions? All right, then I think we're very good in time. Thank you so much. Is there a question?
I think there is one last question in the back. Last question.
Hey, so I think we are not having the essential question discussed which is not the future of jobs, but basically the future of meaning, because I think we are kind of constrained in thinking about, okay, what's going to happen if nobody has a job anymore? But if you'd ask like a Roman landowner, they would not understand this question. Like they define their meaning not by doing labor or having a job, but doing other stuff. So I think, well, my question would be, why are we not having a discussion about what does it mean for a human if we don't have to work anymore?
That's a good idea for the next year summit. I think in Western societies we're very much defined today with the Weber philosophy of work defines people, humans. So it's definitely going to be you're going to need to rethink how we are as a society if we do have that problem with meaning and job. Okay, so thank you so much. And I think now it's the last panel, correct? Yes. Thank you so much, guys.